Running a business can feel like having 17 different tabs open in your brain, and somehow every single one is making noise. Welcome to the Chaos to Clarity podcast, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs cut through the endless strategies, the conflicting advice, and the pressure to do everything all at once. My name is Maggie Olson, and I've been building businesses since 2007. And I know that more information isn't usually the answer. You need to understand what actually matters and what is really going to work for you and what your business really needs next. Each week, we're going to talk honestly about marketing, about sales, systems, AI, leadership, maybe even get a little woo with some human design and the real decisions behind building a business that actually works, that's actually sustainable for you. So let's turn down the noise and let's find your next clear step in today's episode. Have you ever looked up from your business one day and realized you don't even really recognize what your business is anymore? Or maybe you're doing something, everything is going fine, and all of a sudden you're like, but wait, do I actually want to be doing this? Because somewhere along the way in the day in and day out of business, you got so busy building, so busy helping, learning, being of service, really like just being in your business that you kind of stopped asking yourself a really important question. And that question is this still the business that I want to build? And that is exactly where I've found myself over the last several months, maybe even the last year. So let's get into it a little bit. Hello and welcome back to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. My name is Maggie. I'm your host, your business mentor, and your business strategist. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you might be wondering where I disappeared to. And honestly, fair. That's such a fair question. Now, this podcast has been quiet for a while, but it wasn't because I stopped podcasting or ran out of things to say or, stopped believing in the work that I do. But, in reality, I got busy. And I got busy building, I got busy serving, I got busy doing the things that I wanted to be doing. And over the last year or so, I've really been able to get inside of other people's businesses, not just as a coach and consultant, but also as a strategist, as someone who can go in and look at what people are doing with their tech and help them figure out the chaos that tech brings to businesses. So a lot of these opportunities that I've had over the last 12 months or so were exactly what I needed, and others turned into some really valuable learning experiences. There have been a lot of ups and downs over the past, I would say, calendar year, quite honestly. But somewhere along the way, as I've been in all of these businesses, doing all of this stuff, supporting, building, growing, I realized something that really kind of made me laugh not that long ago. And, as the host of the Chaos to Clarity podcast, I was living in so much chaos. And I really realized this when my eyes started twitching again a few months ago. And it has since stopped. But a couple years ago, my eyes started twitching and I didn't know why. And that went on for months and months. This time, my eyes started twitching and I thought, oh, here we are. We're in the chaos again. Okay, let's take a look at this right now. Let's explore what is going on. What do I actually need? What can I actually let go of? How can I just be better for myself, but also for the people who I'm serving? Now, when I talk about chaos, I don't mean bad chaos at all. It's just the kind of chaos that really happens when you're saying yes to opportunities, to learning new skills, to just trying to figure out what your own business is becoming. And, if we take a look at my human design, right? My sun gate is gate 29. And that is the yes gate. It's also the half-ass gate. So I am just genetically driven, set up designed, if you will, to say yes to all the things because number one, I love to learn. But number two, I also really do enjoy saying yes to opportunities that come by because there is always something that I can gain from them in such a good way. However, sometimes it does bite me in the ass because then I get so busy and things like this podcast, something that I truly love to do, has to be put to the side. Now, looking back, I didn't necessarily need a break from my business, but I definitely needed some clarity. And this is a really interesting thing for me to be basically in the seat that my clients are typically in, right? People come to me and they're like, I just don't even know what to do next. There's so much to do. How can I move on? Now, if you've followed me for a while, you'll also know that I've worn so many hats over the years, right? I've been a photographer since 2007. I owned a yoga studio. I coached entrepreneurs. I taught and coached yoga teachers, right? I teach human design. Over the last year, I stepped into the director of operations role at sattva.io. And, there's just so many amazing things that I've been able to do. Now, something that I haven't talked a lot about here on the podcast is being the director of operations at Sattva. And over at Sattva, this is a CRM software. It's built on the Go High Level framework with, just a lot of custom things. It's such an amazing place to be a part of. Number one, because I get to help businesses streamline their systems and really to help them create better client experiences, which I didn't know that I loved until I started doing it and until I started realizing most people live in so much tech chaos. Like, I really enjoy helping people navigate that and kind of understand how tech can work better for them. Now, as I've stepped into this role, I've found myself basically talking with business owners every single day about what is actually keeping them from growing. So as business owners kind of feel this like, oh my gosh, how can I grow more? I need more leads. I need more sales. I need more, right? I've had a front row seat to so many businesses that are thriving, but also they feel like they're struggling. They're living in the chaos, right? A lot of times, a lot of these businesses have amazing marketing, but they don't have great follow-up, or vice versa. They have terrible marketing, but really great follow-up. There's incredible owners who feel completely overwhelmed and like, honestly, girl, same. I was feeling so overwhelmed in my own business that as I was helping other people, I realized, oh, wow, a lot of the things that I'm talking to people about are definitely a mirror of what I was also experiencing. Now, I think at the time, I thought I was helping to build someone else's business as I stepped into this role. So it kind of felt like two silos that I was trying to like work between. But what I didn't realize was that like I was getting an education that courses, certifications, masterminds, you name it, like I was basically earning an MBA in how businesses actually operate without like going for a master's degree. And I would even argue that what I've been learning, what I've been helping people with, what I've been doing, it's not stuff that you learn in an MBA, an MBA, not NBA. It's like the real life stuff. So as exciting as all of that was, again, there's another side to it, right? I was spending so much time helping everyone else build their businesses, do and make sure their systems were working, that I slowly stopped building my own. I stopped recording podcasts. I stopped creating consistent content. I wasn't really talking about the things that I loved talking about. And, being completely honest, I really started questioning what I was even doing in my business to keep moving forward. Like, did I want to still be a coach? Did I want to be more of an operations? Like, what about human design? Should I just keep working behind the scenes in other people's businesses? Like, I really felt like a couple of months ago, I was at a huge crossroads of like, I don't know what to do. And I feel like I have so much to do at the same time that I also knew like, I better like shuffle some of this stuff off of my plate before the eye twitch comes back. And I really didn't know like which way I wanted to move forward. Now, I still work with Sattva. So like if you need a CRM, hit your girl up, right? Like I am your girl for that. But I also knew that I wasn't giving myself permission to slow down, to ask better questions and decide what I really did want next. Like I ask people those questions every single day. Every time that I meet with someone, whether it's an offer audit that you book directly through me, or whether it's a systems review that you book through Sattva, I ask you that question, like, why aren't you giving yourself permission to slow down? Or if you could slow down, if you could take a pause and ask yourself some better questions, what would you ask yourself? How would you move forward if things weren't so rushed? And as I thought through these for myself, I really kind of realized that I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience this exact thing that I was experiencing. Now, I think a lot of people are really great at solving other people's problems, right? We're much less patient when it comes to our own problems. And I see this a lot in people that I meet with. They want it solved. They want it solved yesterday. Well, yes. And sometimes this takes a little bit of time. And I think we tend to forget that. And it's not a dig on anyone. It's literally realizing like, okay, I want this massive change, but I can't do it all at one time. Now, for a while, I kept telling myself, and this is important. So if you're listening to this, you're nodding along like, oh my God. Something that I found myself saying, and I found myself saying this a lot in my accountability. So I have another entrepreneur friend who, she's actually been on the podcast. Her name is Tiff. We do weekly accountability. And in my accountability for like weeks on end, I had on there, like be consistent with like this whole laundry list of things. And I realized that I kept telling myself if I just posted more or I recorded more or I got back into a routine that it would fix all my problems. But that actually wasn't really the problem, because what I discovered was that the real problem was that I kept looking for the next strategy instead of making a decision about what I wanted to do, right? I was over consuming podcasts. I was over consuming webinars. I was looking at AI tools. I was exploring business ideas. And I just want to say, none of those are bad at all. In fact, they're all really great. They help make me better at what I do. But information is not the same thing as clarity. And for everyone in the back who feels like they're stuck, who feels like, oh my gosh, I just need to be more consistent. I just need to this one more little download. This is gonna fix it. Information isn't the same thing as clarity. And there was a point where I realized that I really wasn't lacking any knowledge. I was lacking direction. It was easier for me to help other business owners make decisions. It was easier for me to make decisions for Sattva, what colors, what kind of landers, what kind of this, that, and the other thing, than it was for me to actually make decisions in my own business. Now, clarity does not magically appear after you've learned enough. So if you're listening to this and you're like, at the end of this episode, everything is going to be crystal clear, it might not be. I mean, maybe it is. Yeah, maybe. But at the same time, it probably isn't. Like at the end of the day, clarity comes from deciding what is most important right now and having the courage to act on it, right? Being able to decide what is most important right now for you, right? Not for everyone else, for you in this moment right Now I want to bring in a little bit of a story here because I have two kids. My oldest will be in third grade. My youngest is going into 4K. So that is half day junior kindergarten. Um, so our school district does not offer bus service during the noon hour, during the lunch hour. So regardless of whether he's in the AM or the PM class, someone still needs to go and get him, whether they're dropping him off or picking him up during that noon time. And this has been such a cluster of chaos in my own brain, right? Like, it's not anyone else that's adding to this chaos fire except for me. Like, and I recognize that. Because I found that I was like holding out hope that the school district would be like, oh, we hired someone to do the bus service during noontime, when I know deep down that that's not going to happen. So what does that mean? That means I will probably be in charge of getting him to and from school, which is fine. Like, as I'm saying that, it doesn't sound terrible. However, the caveat is that, yes, I got to go and pick him up or drop him off at the noontime, but that's also like probably an hour of my day that I have to stop working. Now, what I've learned about myself over the past several years, probably the last 6 years, since I really started working at home a lot more, is that disruptions in my day are not great for me. Like, I have a hard time getting started on a task if I know, oh, in a couple hours, I have to stop doing this thing. And then I have to go and, like, if I have an appointment in the middle of the day, it's hard for me to get started because I don't want to get too involved. Because what if I get too involved and then I stop looking at the time and then all of a sudden I'm late, right? Or vice versa, I come back from the thing and then I have trouble getting started, even wrapping things up because, well, it's so close to the next thing that I have to do. Why bother starting? Do I have ADHD or AUD, whatever, right? Am I on the spectrum? Probably. Am I undiagnosed? Yes. Do I want to get diagnosed, quote unquote? No, not really. But what this really actually was bringing up for me was that I was stalling. I wasn't making a decision. To find the clarity, I wasn't making a decision. It was easier to sit in indecisiveness, and think and worry and stew over, oh, why, what if I do this? What if I do that? And try and think of every single possibility than to just do the thing. So what did I need to do from this, right? Like, why does this story about my kid's school matter? Now, it matters because either way, on either side of that middle of the day drop off or pickup, it would be like I am the main runner to go and get the kids from school. Again, it's cool. I enjoy that. However, it's a lot of running for me. So then I started thinking through like, oh, well, how am I ever going to get back into my work day? And that totally derailed me so much more than I thought it would. And again, it's not a bad thing. There's no one to blame. I'm not angry about it. It was just something that I found myself in a constant chaotic mindset about, oh my gosh, I have to figure this out. What if I don't figure it out? How am I going to figure it out? How am I going to do this? What if I this? What? It was exhausting. It was exhausting. But I also realized one day after talking to a client, like, what if I just decide that it's not that big of a deal? What if I just look at the hours of some of the local businesses, the local coffee shops in town, the library, and make a plan? Like, okay, if he has to be to school at 12:30, great. I'm going to drop him off at the babysitter. I'm going to drop my other child off at school in the morning. And then I'm going to come home and I'm going to have some tasks to do in the morning. and then I'm going to go pick him up and I'm going to drop him off at school. And then I'm going to sit at the library on Mondays and Wednesdays until the kids are done. Because Tuesdays and Thursdays, my husband picks up the kids. And then Fridays, I also pick up the kids early. And suddenly it clicked in my brain like, oh, I was totally making a mountain out of a molehill. And I was creating more chaos than what I really actually needed to be creating. So as I was pulling these pieces together for myself, right, in my own business, solving my own chaos and finding the clarity in it, I realized a couple things. Like, I was freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, September to May, that's so long. But then I also realized, like, it's only September to May. And at this time next year in 2027, it won't be that big of a deal because both kids will go to school full time, like all day. So it's a very, very short period of time that's going to require me to be a little bit more flexible than I have been before. And now that we've kind of figured out, or I've figured out a plan, right? Because it was me causing the chaos. It's no one's fault, right? So if you're listening to this thinking, well, why can't any number of people help? It's not because of them. It was literally me creating all of these thoughts inside my head. Now, I just want to say this. Pulling these pieces together helped me realize that most business owners don't actually need more information. As I was navigating all the school stuff, I realized, oh, I actually have all the information that I need. Right? Like, so if you're feeling like, oh, I just need this one more podcast, I just need this one more Instagram post, I just need this one more screenshot, you don't necessarily need that. We are not suffering from lack of advice. We are suffering from lack of clarity. And this is something that I know a lot of people talk about, being in a trust recession. Like, they can't find enough clients because we're in a trust recession. Nobody trusts me, blah, blah, blah. Well, what if it's that you're just giving out advice instead of helping people find clarity? Because what we really want to know is much simpler, right? Like, when we think about this, it's like, what should I focus on this week? What should I post? Who should I follow up with? Is my offer the problem? Do I need more leads? Do I need to get better at converting the leads I already have? Which this one, check. Yes, most people have plenty of leads, but they don't know how to convert the leads that they have. So they just keep making more new leads. And then they have all these cold leads that they're not nurturing. And then all of those cold leads are like, I don't really understand what you do. And a confused buyer never buys, right? So something I want you to think about, and I want you to kind of mull over. And I would love for you to answer this question, whether you email me, slide into my DMs, whatever, right? What is the next decision that's actually going to move your business forward? And that, I realized, like, that question, what is the decision that's actually going to move my business forward? That is what I want this podcast as a whole to answer. Because when you know what matters next, business suddenly will feel so much lighter. And as I realized that, yes, I love systems, I love implementation, I love helping people see the path, I also realized that a lot of people have decision fatigue, for one, especially if you're a woman. But also, it really kind of throws you off track when you don't make the decision for what is actually going to move your business forward. Now, I understand that there are probably 735 different choices that you could make to move your business forward. But the thing that matters the most is that you actually make the decision and then you act on the decision, because that's where I see people getting stuck. Is they've made the choice, but then they're like, I don't know. What should I do next? Should I actually do it? And then they just start asking people, should I do this? I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. And pretty soon they've been thinking about X, Y, and Z and A, B, and C for 6 weeks and nothing's really gotten done. Now, with all that to be said, this is why Chaos to Clarity is coming back with a renewed purpose. Now, I just want to say, if you're like, what is going on? I don't even know. I've listened to you yap for 25 minutes and I'm not really sure what's going on here. Number one, I want to say the interviews that I have done on the Chaos to Clarity podcast are moving to a new podcast. There's actually podcast available right now. It's called the Built to Scale podcast. And that podcast is all interviews, right? I'm over there once a month with a solo episode, but I'm over there interviewing people about their purpose, about their clarity, about how they've built their business. Basically, everything that I was interviewing people here on the Chaos to Clarity podcast, they're all moving over to the Built to Scale podcast, because I found myself at this weird balancing point in this podcast where I love this space. I love what I've curated here, but I wanted to really make it my own. I wanted it to ebb. I wanted it to flow. I didn't want to feel like the topics I was talking about were just random. So this is why I started that new podcast space. So if you are someone who wants to speak on a podcast, please, there'll be a link down below in the show notes. Let me know. Go ahead and sign up for an interview time for the Built to Scale podcast, because that is where you're going to find me with all of the interviews, which leaves this podcast, the Chaos to Clarity podcast, to be somewhere where every episode is going to help you answer one important business question, right? So I'm talking about things like marketing, sales, offers, human design, systems, mindset, decision-making, energy, leadership. Every conversation is coming back to one main thing, and that's, how do I help you see your business more clearly or better? You know, and I think business is so multifaceted. It's also kind of boring, right? So if we take out a lot of things, right? If we take out all of the bells and whistles, the main components of business are tell people about your offer, sell them, close them, off board, right? Like, it's really, I know, I understand there's a lot of nuances, but like simplifying what business is, right? It's really not that hard. So we love to add in all of this extra stuff. And once you bring on a team, right, you have leadership. Once you even just starting a business, you have the energy aspect of like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have enough energy to post today. Which that's a thing, right? But also consistency. Now, one more story before I wrap this up is yesterday. Now, at the time you're hearing this, it might be a couple weeks ago, but recently I photographed a family, and the dad was asking me, how did you get into photography? How did you start this business? You've been in business for 20 years. That's amazing. How do you do it? And number one, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've been in business like almost as long as you've been alive. That's crazy town to me. But, I said, well, I literally have always taken photos. And I literally just started telling people, I'm a photographer. I'd love to take your photos. Do you know anyone that needs photos? Right? And I literally just started talking and telling people that I take photos. I honed in the art of taking photos. I started to understand lighting. I started to understand manual settings on my camera. I started to understand how I like to edit photos. I started understanding what kind of clients I liked, right? So I was taking those next steps, learning the craft, honing in the craft. And as I was saying that to him, I realized like, oh, I've done that in photography, yoga, coaching, human design, business operations, right? Like I've always been doing that. So to come back to, the question that I want all of the episodes to kind of revolve around, how do we help you see your business more clearly? How do you find clarity? How do you move through the chaos of business? And how do you see the clarity in your next step? Because sometimes, yes, we can plan 10 steps, 20 steps, 100,000 steps into the future, but sometimes you need to just focus on the next step, one at a time, because that is really where the momentum is built inside of your business. Now, I have to say, I am so excited where the podcast is heading. I have some really amazing episodes that I'll be creating, that I'll be recording. If you have suggestions of things you want to hear me talk about, make sure you slide into my DMs on Instagram or Facebook and let me know what topics, what questions you want to hear about, because I'm going to be sharing more behind the scenes stories, both from myself, but also from people that I get to work with on this podcast. I really want this podcast to be more like a behind the scenes look at how a business can run. So I love finding patterns. And I really want to talk about things that I like, patterns that I see across different industries. I still love human design. I love the woo, but I also want to weave it in a practical way, because I understand that energy is like, you can't hold energy. You can't hold human design. It's these topics of like, oh, I read this thing, and I have a lot of people in my DMs asking me, how do I use human design? Like, how do I understand what comes next? Is it just something that I learn and then it's like just there? How can I use that in a way that's really connected to business decisions? And, for me, part of what I do is like, I love how energy can impact your business, right? And I think from learning and being involved in yoga, it's really taught me, how do I feel in my business? Like, how do I feel on my mat? How do I want to feel in the business? Where do I feel this coming from? Now, I would love, like, my goal with this podcast is, I don't want this podcast to just inspire you. I want this podcast to help you make better decisions in life, in business, wherever. And, I've always kind of thought that clarity came from finding the perfect strategy. But, over the last several months, even probably over the last year, I've realized deep down that clarity comes from making the next right decision for you. It might seem totally crazy to someone else, but it's right for you. Your business doesn't have to be perfect before you make that next move. And you don't have to know the entire plan before taking the first step. But I also really do suggest, if you're taking some of those first steps, at least understand your client journey, because the clarity in your business that you're looking for comes once you start moving, but also it comes when you understand, how do people move through my business, right? People come in at point A and they leave at point Z. What are the other 24 steps? Now, it doesn't have to be 24, but you get what I mean. What are the steps from cold to sold? I think that's a very important thing, that as I've been having more sales conversations, as I've been doing more implementations with business inside of Sattva, as I've been helping people who are already on the platform, I realize that a lot of people don't really understand their client journey. And that's a big thing that I want to really get into here on the podcast over the coming seasons. Now, if you've been here since the beginning, thank you so much for just sticking around. It means more than you know that you're here listening. And if this is your first episode, again, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad. Welcome to the chaos, right? You know, as we move forward every week, I'm going to start to untangle some of the things that make business feel complicated. I'm going to look at what is actually keeping you stuck. I'm also going to share what is keeping me stuck. Because ultimately, as I'm moving through this, I know I'm not the only one moving through some of these things, right? I'm going to look at what's creating unnecessary overwhelm and really what deserves attention right now, because I know that you don't need 100 new ideas. You need someone to help you see what's already in front of you, because most of the time, like 99% of the time, the next right step is probably right in front of you. It's closer than you realized. So I'm excited for the podcast to be back. And, you know, this podcast is called Chaos to Clarity because clarity isn't something that you find once and then you keep it forever. It's something that you have to create over and over again. You have to continually create and curate your clarity through better questions, through better decisions, and consistent action. So, yes, consistency is a big theme for me, for Chaos to Clarity, but just in business in general. Because to go back to the family that I took photographs of not long ago, something that, you know, when the dad asked me, well, how did you get this far in business? It comes down to consistency. I showed up on the bad days. I showed up on the good days. I showed up every day, and taking consistent action has gotten me to where it is. So if I can offer you one last bit of advice, is that take one consistent action every single day and then start to build on that action, whether that's posting, whether that's sending a message, whether that's looking at your client journey and figuring out, okay, what is the next best thing? One consistent action will lead to more. Now, I am so excited to be back. I can't wait to hear all of your thoughts. And just as a reminder, make sure you like, share, subscribe, write a review. If you write a review, I see all of those and I read all of those. So, but it also helps get this podcast out to more people who need to hear what I am talking about. So I would be forever grateful if you gave me a review. I would be forever grateful if you shared this with a friend. I would also be forever grateful if you subscribed. So I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.